Hey everybody, Scott Oaken coming at you. We are here. We are talking a little golf news here today on the Legion of Birdies podcast. And it's kind of an interesting day, I think, when we start looking at golf news and everything that's going on. We have Jay Monahan from the PGA Tour came out ahead of the the Tour Championship on the PGA Tour. And they reviewed and did several changes for the 2022-23 season next year, right? This is an interesting thing that's going to be happening, and one that I think leads to a lot of things about what's been going on with Live and everything that's happening. And quite honestly, when you look at this doesn't look good on Jay Monahan, in my opinion. But let's go over what these changes are. So it does. It does say the PGA Tour is doing this for the 2022-2023 season. So that is the one that season starts in a couple of weeks. So what happens on the PGA Tour, if you're not familiar, is you have they do what's a wraparound season right now, right? So the Tour Championship wraps up the season this week, okay? You got the event. Do I really care about the Tour Championship? Honestly, not really. I hate the staggered start. It just takes so much energy out of it. You know, if you're somebody that likes to place wagers and things like on this, I mean, the odds are so bad based on, the fact that Scotty Scheffler gets a two-stroke head start. And I just stick to the thing, this is what I think about it, is the way they have this set up now. If you had this in 2018 when Tiger Woods won the Tour Championship, you would not have had that moment. That was ridiculous that's ridiculous to take that away. And Tiger almost won the whole thing, but everybody was saying it was confusing and all that. But whatever. It just doesn't seem to work very well to me. Anyway, that's a whole different thing. We can get into all that. But what they're doing for this is the season has always started, in the end of September, early October, and the idea was that it counts towards the following calendar year. So it's like a wraparound season. And this is where a lot of the issues with Live and all that stuff kind of have stemmed from, because what the tour wanted to do was make these events seem more important. The problem with that is now the players felt like they had to play in the fall. So they were playing all the way up to like December. And then the top players that have won in the year, they're going to go to Kapalua basically right after the new year. So, not much of an off season, not much of, hey, I get to relax, rest, just kind of not play golf. And also if I have injuries, I got to get surgeries, anything like that. You really don't have a window to do that. And so the players really haven't been on board with that. Now, the other thing that would happen is you would have players trying to get FedEx Cup points, so they were trying to kind of cherry pick these events. And, there's players that just said, I'm not going to play them. But if you do that, you're really putting yourself behind the eight ball, and you're going to lose your FedEx Cup standings. You're going to start way behind. Now, some players didn't care. They're going to make it, whatever. But there are players, I mean, you think about it, Ricky Fowler was really pushing hard this year to get that top 125. You had some names, Harry Higgs, some guys like that, kind of been around, and you see them in social and stuff, but what you realize is that they're not really in the mix, let's say. They're just not in the mix right now with their games. So that's an issue, right? And so you have to look at it from that standpoint of like, hey, what are we doing as far as, a schedule and all that. But again, the players, that was one of the big things. And then obviously just some things with guaranteed money, things like that. So let's go over the changes that the tour has come up with. So first off, they've made these elevated events. So they have 8 events that they have elevated. So these events, kind of the events anyway, they're the Tournament of Champions. I'm not sure how that's going to work, if that's just going to be the 30 winners again. Because like they're saying that the elevated status would be like the 50, 60 players, top 50 or 60 plus 20 players off the player improve or impact program. Those top players are always going to be eligible. So basically, what they're trying to do is get the guys that move the needle, the guys that are popular on social media, stuff like that, into these tournaments, not necessarily based on your skill, right? So the events are going to be that Century Tournament Champions, the Genesis, Arnold Palmer Memorial, the Match Play, the what do we have? FedEx, St. Jude, that makes sense. FedEx, big sponsor, BMW, and the Tour Championship. So 3 of those events are already the playoff events that they've had. The St. Jude, the BMW, and the Tour Championship. And then you have the Match Play was only 64 players anyway. Actually, they went down to, or no, it was 64, but they did the pool play then. They've always been trying to figure out that match play, which I think they've done a decent job with it. You have the Memorial, you have Arnold Palmer, the Genesis. Those are all invite events anyway, so they're just shrinking the field anymore. Those were already small field events. They were not full field 156 player events anyway. So they're just elevating those even more. So that's 8 events. Then every year it looks like they're going to rotate 4 events. They're going to rotate 4 events to make 12 elevated events. And then those players, basically all the players are coming up with this together. They're going to choose 3 other events that are elevated events, and that's going to rotate every year. So that'd be kind of sweet if like the John Deere Classic got in there. That'd be kind of funny. I'd love it. I'd go over there to see it. Go watch those guys rip that course apart. And then you have the majors, which would be the 4 majors plus the PGA Tour counts the players as a major. So that basically puts 20 events where if you're in this elevated status, you're coming together and you're basically going to play, right? That's what they're trying to do. And so these have more purses, more ranking points, which again, or more FedEx Cup points, I should say, which again, they already did because of the invitational status. And so this isn't terribly new other than, again, they're just kind of, the players coming together and saying, all right, we are going to do this. And we understand we all have to go play the same events because that's better for people to watch. So they're doing that. And we're going to see that at least 20 times throughout the season is basically what they're saying. So that's a good thing. That's something that came out of the meeting that they had in Delaware during the BMW Championship. That's something that was talked about a lot. And so that's what you have. The PIP program, which was like the social media impact program, that's now going to be 20 instead of 10 players. And voila, magically, the payout has doubled from 50 to 100 million. Don't know where you get 50 million extra dollars from, but they have it. And so that's going to happen. I'm not really sure about this, how it's going to work. They're moving like the social media metrics and things like that. So it's really just kind of like a top 20 popularity contest. If we're being honest, that's what it sounds like. And so that's what they're going to be doing. Then another big one is the earnings assistance program, where if you are a fully exempt member, okay, and this one again, we're gonna need a little clarification on. It says Korn Ferry Tour category and above. So does that mean everybody on the Korn Ferry Tour also gets this? Is if you are part of these leagues, if you are an exempt member, okay, so you can't be like a Monday qualifier, anything like that, you're getting $500,000 minimum. Okay, and if you're a rookie, they're going to pay you that up front. So this is a good thing. This is something we've been talking about where, it costs approximately about 10 grand a month, 10 grand an event for players to play. It could be less if you're kind of you're going on a budget, things like that. But to stay in a hotel for a week, travel, get everybody you need there, all that stuff, it can get pretty pricey. So what they're doing is going to make sure that players don't lose money. So the way it works is the $500,000 is basically like a stipend, and if you don't make that amount of money in the season, so let's say you only make $300,000 in earnings, what they will do is they actually will give you $200,000. They'll make up the difference, so you will not earn less than $500,000 in a season if you are a fully exempt member of the PGA Tour. And it does look like the Korn Ferry Tour, which that one is big. That one is really big. because those guys don't make that much. I think you're going to be reimbursing a lot of players there. So that's a lot of money. That's going to be a lot of money when you include both of those tours. The non-exempt members, so if you're a member, but you're non-exempt. So that's like at the end of the season, if you finish in the top 126 to 150 on the FedEx Cup, you technically are not fully exempt for the next season. You still kind of have status, but you don't get to play in every event. So every time you go to an event, they are going to give you $5,000 if you miss the cut. That's going to assist with travel and all that stuff. So that's new. That's kind of something they used to do. I think they do in the U.S. Open. They give a little stipend for people, that qualify and play for the professionals because they can do that. So they'll do that. This is going to replace. They used to do something where if you played 15 events, you got a bonus. I think it was only $50,000, but they would give you a bonus. So obviously, this is a lot more money than $50,000. Also, this helps your lesser players. The guys that are playing 15 events typically didn't need the $50,000 anyway. But there you go. So it's interesting. They're also giving anybody that makes the Tour Championship. So if you made the Tour Championship this year, you now have a 2-year exemption on the Tour. So if you play really bad next year, you still would be a Tour member the following year. Give you a little security. And then, because what could happen is that's normally what you would get if you win, right? If you win an event, you get a 2-year exemption to the Tour, no matter how it goes. Now they're just giving that to the people that do the Tour Championship. The Tournament of Champions is now going up to 550 points. And life members, no longer any time to that. 15 seasons used to be, if you were a member for 15 seasons, you become a life member, so you're always a member of the Tour. Now it's just if you get to 20 wins, that's what you get. So really interesting stuff. The thing that I think about right off the bat when we go through this is, did LIV work? Was LIV the best thing that happened to professional golfers? I don't know where all of this money came from the PGA Tour. I don't know, because all of a sudden you're saying you've got enough to pay every player on the PGA Tour and the Korn Ferry Tour. That is a 250 people. You have enough to guarantee they make $500,000 in a year. Okay, and again, maybe I'm wrong on that Korn Ferry one, but you have money to get them $500,000 in a year. Plus, you have the ability to run these elevated programs. Now, I'm sure there's sponsors stepping up and things for that, but you have ability to guarantee bigger money purses in these events. You have added $50 million per year to this PIP program just out of nowhere, right? Like, it's just, here we go. And you get to guarantee people more time playing. I just don't understand where this money's coming from unless they already had it, which, you know what? A lot of the guys, Phil was talking about this, right? And that was his big thing. And there's other players that were talking about this, that the Tour was holding back and the players felt unfairly holding back money from them, and where they could be doing more for the players. And at this point, I look at this and say, they look correct. Now, do I think they should have left and sued? Again, we've talked about that in the past. I think everybody should be able to do what they want and do their thing. Like, there's nothing that says, hey, you have to play the Tour, the PGA Tour. If there's a better option, that's something you do. But, maybe if they really were like, hey, I want to stay on the Tour and make it better. I don't know. I don't believe that they did this out of martyrism, right? I think they got thrown a ton of money and they said, hey, I'm going to take it, which I do not fault them for. They just went for it. But it's very interesting how this came about. It's interesting how Tiger got involved and Rory got involved. Kudos to Rory. I think Tiger, it's kind of easy, I think, for Tiger being at 46 and really trying to, make his mark, and he's not really in the day-to-day competition, all that. Rory, I actually think has done a good job of being an ambassador for this, even while being a competitor and all that. So that's interesting. But Yeah, this is interesting, but the other takeaway I have, not only about Liv, is I have more so about Jay Monahan and the PGA Tour, and that is that they need change at the top. Jay Monahan cannot still be the PGA Tour commissioner. He just cannot. He essentially, if you look back to his comments earlier in the year, he essentially called the bluff of the Liv, saying this is dead, this is this is that, and it wasn't at all. He underestimated it. He just let them do it, and then he is now being, reactive to the problem instead of being proactive. And now we have an issue where the fans have suffered because we are not going to get the best players playing. You can say that you got the top 20 in the tour and all that, and they're great players, but we are going to have players playing in different spots that I think are really fun, really good players, really exciting players to watch. Cam Smith is rumored to be going. That sounds like it's all but a done deal, but I hope it's not true. But he is a player to watch, and I love watching Cam Smith play. It stinks that he will be gone, and we'll have to go watch him play on YouTube or wherever they end up. I think it's Dustin Johnson, exciting player to play. And the fact that Monahan is so dead set against the Liv, I think his ego can't get out of the way. I think that's something that we need to look at as well. But he could have headed this off the pass. I don't know what's changed from March to now where it's like, oh, boom, all of a sudden we have all of this money and we couldn't communicate this with the players and we couldn't do this, we couldn't do that. Where could you have gotten into a group and said, hey, I'm going to be better at this and working on this, and I'm going to make myself, I'm going to make the product better, because people see this Live product and there's talk that people are going to go and they're interested. So how can we kind of piggyback off that before it becomes an issue and see what we can do? I mean, that's just what I'm thinking about with it. So I don't know. It's just he can't be there. And then he was asked as well if Live players would ever be welcome back. He immediately said no. I get the idea that these guys left and that these guys have now sued the tour. I get how that's interesting. I get how that doesn't sit right. I know that wouldn't sit right with me if somebody went somewhere and said, hey, I'm not, like if I had an employee or something, like say, hey, I'm going to leave teaching with you because it's better over here. And then I won't let them come back, and they sued me. I'd be like, well, what are you doing? Like, I get that, but there's so much that's changed. There's so much I feel like the players have been misled by the PGA Tour. I feel like they've been misled by Liv. I think the Liv has turned out to be very, very interesting for players to consider, especially for the players that join, basically giving up their tour status, and then they aren't allowed to play in Liv. I think that's a very interesting thing. But he can't keep his job after this one. He has to go. They need somebody in with a clear head. And if they decide that that's the best route, that, hey, we're going to keep Live players off, if the players all decide that, then that's good. But, okay, that's their tour. If you truly are calling this a member-run tour, then the members of the tour need to do more in running it and making decisions. This commissioner needs to step aside. He is not the guy to make these decisions. That's the way it needs to go. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Head over, check out our Instagram, Real SHG. Hit me up there. Check us over. Leave comments in the YouTube section if you're watching on YouTube. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. But a very interesting day of golf. Kind of brings some buzz. Otherwise, to a week that I don't really care too much about with East Lake. I'm not a big East Lake fan, and I'm not a big fan of the Tour Championship with the new staggered start, all that stuff. So, we'll just we'll kind of get through it and see how it kind of goes. So, would love to hear your thoughts and what's going on with it. But interesting day, and we'll see how the tour goes. So, thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll catch you in the next episode of Legions of Birdies podcast. Click that subscribe button if you're not a subscriber already, and we'll see you then. Peace.